And we're back with part two. And Uncle Dane is still Uncle Dane. He did not morph into Funky. He is still
Oh,
here.
that's good.
Yeah,
I'm still me.
I'd be scared if you like morphed into Funky. He's pretty
That'd be
crazy.
very odd.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what to expect if literally I just like we started up again and I started hearing Funky's voice. I think I'd call an exorcist or something.
It'd be a pretty good prank, to be honest.
It really would. Like you know what would have been fun is like just continued with Funky like it was still you, like nothing was like off.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And just see the comments blow up like that's not Uncle Dave.
What
But
the heck?
so this next question is going to be delving into a topic that you and I are both have strong opinions of on opposite ends. Well, maybe not. I haven't read the question, but I know what it's about generally. Uh, Speaking of matchmaking, you are the most prominent proponent for Highlander over 6v6. How do you feel knowing that Valve has decided to give the 6v6 format its focus? Are you upset that Highlander isn't the focus? Happy that it is going to be happy that it's going to be in the game at all, or just indifferent because it's basically going to be in the same situation that we've had in North America with UGC and ESEA, but it's basically moved to be built into the game, but with the same issue.
Well, I guess people are kind of jumping to conclusions whenever they say that Valve is focusing purely on 6v6 for their final matchmaking uh like version. Um they're only focusing on 6v6 right now because they only have 20 people actually playing their beta. um
All invite
so
players.
yeah, so and pretty much every single one of those players plays primarily 6v6. So obviously they're giving them the game that they're used to so that they can give them the insight that would be accurate. That being said, it is more difficult to code into the game a way to get 18 players into one server who are all on the same relative level of skill to stay in the same server for about a half an hour. So,
And get a
uh,
unique person because they'll probably be queuing up for each class.
exactly. Well, queuing up for each class is a big part of it too, but you know, queuing up for specific classes might take longer, which might make people not want to play certain classes because it's a longer queuing time. Obviously, like more popular classes will take longer to queue up for, less popular classes will take less time to queue up for.
Uh,
Maybe that'll be a good thing. Maybe it
yeah,
won't. I don't know.
it might make
But
more medic mains out there, which is
yeah,
always a good thing.
yeah, more people playing heavy and engineers. So, um, I think that Valve doesn't want to disappoint everybody with matchmaking. I think that that's their main goal, which is why they're being so uncharacteristic in telling us what's going on so often, because they want to make sure that they get it right as soon as possible because they realize that this is what'll save their game. Overwatch is an actual threat to TF2. Um, not right when it comes out. It's not like TF2 will suddenly die overnight, but eventually over the next, I'd say 5 years or so, if they don't have matchmaking, then what is the point? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Matchmaking is such a huge part of gaming today. So
because
I think
yeah,
that
like
it was
TF2 was
overdue.
built before matchmaking
Oh yeah,
was
yeah.
popular.
And it was built as a casual game, but then
Yeah,
its audience turned it into a competitive game on the side, and it became relatively successful. And I think that Valve, they're pretty good at uh, not making new games, but still making money off of their old games. And I think that they saw TF2 as a way to do that. So they see that matchmaking is popular. They see that competitive is popular, and they're like, well, some people are already doing competitive TF2. Why don't we just make that a core part of the game? And so they're doing
right.
that. But the thing is, TF2 is hard to make into a competitive game because there's so many different ways to play it. There's 9 classes to begin with, and there's always the argument that there doesn't have to be one of each class in order for the game to be successful. But however, I think that they balance it in a way. They have been balancing it in a way where there is where if there is one of each class, then the game is on a balanced kind of tilt. I or not tilt, but I think that it's
Yeah,
balanced in a way
that's
where
a bad term to use with Sixes players.
tilt. Yeah, yeah. No, I think that it's I think that when there's one of each class, there's something for everyone to do, and that's fun. And I think that that's what makes Highlander an enjoyable game mode. Now, that's just personal opinion. Obviously, some people don't like playing it like that. Some people like playing it more like how CS:GO or League of Legends is set up, where there's five of each, 5 or 6 of each class, and well, not 5 or 6 of each class, but like there's specific people doing very few specific things, and they're working together quite well. And I think that the only real reason why they've come to the meta that they've come to in 6v6 is because they play a lot of 5CP, and the most mobile classes succeed in those. Unfortunately, the way that UGC has dealt with 6v6 is they've banned a lot of things to encourage that meta to continue. And that's something that I personally don't like about sixes, is that they don't want their meta to change, and so they keep banning things that will keep that meta in its current state. And I think that Valve doesn't like that about sixes, and that's what they're going to be changing. And so whenever we get 6v6 in Valve's like Valve's version of 6v6, I think we're going to get something that will eventually turn out to be much wildly more different than what UGC or ETF2L has done with 6v6, because they won't be
Right.
banning anything. And so that'll be interesting.
And I think it's an issue that a lot of like people who don't play sixes and people who do play sixes realize. I've realized it. And I know you watch this, man. Mr. Slyn has realized, he's done a video about the sixes meta growing stale. But like the problem I run into when I think about it is really the only thing I could think about being a fair being a replacement to anything and still like having a good impact, but it's banned, is a heavy with the gloves of running urgently. And even then, I've been told by people like Banny that, and I think it was it Slyn? I think it might have been Slyn saying that it still wouldn't be enough to replace the pocket soldier or like the sniper to replace. Because I mean, I know you've seen some games where they've run like a sniper for a full round instead of second scout, and they do work.
Oh yeah, for sure. Snipers?
Oh yeah, the
Oh
sniper.
yeah, for sure.
It's a
Well,
scary class.
a sniper is probably one of the most straightforward yet overpowered classes in the game if you play it right. And I
Yeah.
think that that's kind of a problem. I hope that Valve eventually gets around to changing it, but that's probably the least of their worries right now.
Well, the thing
But
with sniper is it's a glass cannon. Like it performs really well, but anything can throw it off.
well, I wouldn't say that it's a glass cannon, because when you're at a distance, there's nothing you can do about a sniper. The only thing that you can do about a sniper is just not walk where it can see you, but that's such a terrible way of countering a sniper. I think that there has to be some way where you can peek a sniper and not instantly die. And I don't know how to fix that. I'm not one to throw ideas out for balancing the sniper. I haven't even really
Vaccinator,
thought about it. Well, I mean,
the worst medigun in history.
yeah, I don't think that you should be forced to run a completely different,
Awful.
yeah, medigun just to be able to counter one thing. But
Yeah.
the reality of it is, sniper is kind of, the way that it is now is kind of not a good class to play against in competitive TF2, so I think that maybe it'll eventually get changed, but that's beside the point. The point that I've been trying to make is that Valve doesn't want to disappoint anybody, so they're eventually going to put Highlander in the game
Yeah.
competitively. I guarantee you that they will do it. Like, there's no reason for them not to at
I
least
believe they said
try.
they will eventually. Like it might not be there at the start, but it will
Yeah,
be in.
it might not be, but I have a feeling it will be. I think that right now the only reason that 6v6 is being focused on right now is because of the small amount of players that they have in the beta. specifically the players that they have in the beta are all Sixes players, and because right now all they're trying to do is make sure that their system works. They don't really care about what system works. They just want to make sure that it works in general. They want to make sure that 6v6 works, and then once that works, they can be like, okay, now let's apply that to Highlander, and then they can start working out the bugs for that. But right now, it's in like basically closed alpha. Like they're not they're not gonna want to start putting all this work into something when they don't even have the core aspect of it worked out yet. So I think
Yeah.
that people are jumping to conclusions when they think that Highlander isn't getting a focus. It will get a focus eventually. What that's going to be like, I don't know, and whether it'll be popular, I don't know. But even if worse comes to worse, 6v6 comes out, no class limits. It's not going to be like the 6v6 that we all know. It's going to be insane. People are going to be playing whatever they want. I'm still going to play Engineer in Sixes. I mean, like, Engineer with many sentries in Sixes is overpowered. It's the reason why the Gunslinger is banned in Sixes, because they don't want to change the meta that they had. So I think that if Engineer had many sentries in Sixes, then it might be a little different nowadays, but who knows? Well, we don't know. Like, that's the thing, is that, like, that's one of the things that I actually don't like. Like, I already said it, but it's one of the things I don't like about Sixes. They don't want to explore any new differences. They don't want to explore anything else. They want to make sure that it's just the same thing every season, and they don't want to change anything. And I don't want to like blame that on anyone, but I think it's just the fact that they just don't want to lose what they have, because what they have is pretty good, and they just don't want to. They don't want to risk it. They don't want to be like, okay, this season we're gonna unban this, and this, and then everybody's gonna be like, wow, the game's ruined. So let's not fund it anymore. Let's not play it anymore. Let's not watch it anymore. They don't want to lose that. So
Right.
Valve has nothing to lose with that, so they can just do whatever they want. They can say, hey, let's unban everything. Let's make it so that in Sixes you can play 6 demo men and see what happens.
Oh,
and,
God.
you know, I don't think that's going to stay, because then they're going to launch it and be like, this is absolute cancer. But at the same time, you know, we don't know what that's going to be like. Maybe that'll be fun. I probably won't. But the point is, we don't know, because they don't even try, you know? So, and I know why they don't try, is because they don't want to ruin a good thing, and that's understandable. So, you know, at least Valve's willing to try. And that's what I like about this matchmaking thing. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be something. It's going to be interesting. I don't know if it's going to be fun, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and I don't think Valve really expected there to be such a massive support behind it that they've gotten, because, like, you know, competitive really only encompasses in total, like, at the most, including like all corners of the earth, like probably about like 10,000 people, 12,000 people. And I know it's a public group, anyone can join and everything, but the competitive beta group, which I think you're a part of,
Oh yeah.
has like over 52,000 people. Like, that's the average, like that's an average amount of people who play TF2.
Yep. Every night, got about that same amount of people playing. So pretty much everybody.
Yeah. And we're gonna it's kind of gonna move us over into the next part, is what do you think, let's say Sixes becomes the main thing, Valve, like Sixes and Highlander both go in, but Valve, it's kind of like it is now, Sixes gets the attention. What do you think TF2 will look like with 6v6 as the focus?
They're gonna be great. I honestly don't have a problem with 6v6 being the focus. In fact, I've already been dealing with it ever since I've been playing competitive Highlander,
Yeah, right.
or been involved in the competitive scene. I'm already used to it.
So, like,
They
yeah,
don't
not much would
like.
change, really.
Yeah, I honestly don't. I don't really care. I know that I prefer Highlander, and I don't really care that Highlander is kind of the redheaded stepchild of the competitive
No, that's
aspect.
Fours.
Well, yeah. At least we're not fours, but at the
Fours
same time,
is the
it's
thing that
like,
gets locked in the shed.
yeah, exactly. And I enjoy fours as well, but I don't take it nearly as seriously, and I think that that's the way that Sixes players take Highlander. So I understand where they're coming from. It's just, I'm not going to be butthurt if, you know, a huge TF2 cast is casting 6v6, I will watch it, and I will watch it and get excited, and I will, I'll cheer for the side that I cheer for. I still watch 6v6 because it's easy to watch, and I don't know, it's positive ASMR in the background sometimes. It's just nice to hear people talking about TF2, even though I don't play the game mode and I don't prefer playing the game mode, but it's still competitive TF2, and I think it's positive for the game, so it makes me happy. Uh, when it comes down to playing it, though, I prefer playing Highlander because of just I just think it's more fun. I think it's more interesting, and I get to play the class that I like to play. And I think that a lot of people who play TF2 are on the same side as that. And I think a lot of people who play TF2 have a favorite class, and it's not necessarily Scout, Soldier, Demo Man, or Medic, and they want to be able to have the freedom to play that class full time. So I think that Valve has a very good reason to add that to the game, but I also understand why it wouldn't be the focus, and I wouldn't be disappointed if it was the focus. I think that a lot of people assume that I want only Highlander to be competitive. I think that a lot of people jump to conclusions whenever I say stuff, and they assume that I only want Highlanders to succeed competitively, but I highly doubt that that will be the case, and it's not something that I really want to happen. I don't want Highlander to be.
Swept under the rug.
Yeah, I just don't want it to be completely ignored to the point where it doesn't exist anymore, to where I don't have to go out of my way to play a competitive league of Highlander.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to hop into a Highlander game. That sounds like fun. I played TF2 Center for a really long time because it was so cool to be able to hop into a Highlander game whenever I wanted. And if Valve implements that into the game, then that'll be right up my alley. And I think that'll be right up the alley of a lot of people, because a lot of people like playing Spy and Sniper and Heavy and Pyro and Engineer full time. They like playing those classes full time. And that'll be right up their alley. So
Yeah. Now, let's say matchmaking defies all odds. Lightning struck. What would you think TF2 would look like if Highlander became the focus of the development team? Like, they saw that this was the most popular amongst players.
well, it is the most popular amongst players, but it's not the most profitable, so I don't see it happening. But if lightning struck somehow and they thought that Highlander would be more successful, I think that it would be interesting. I don't really know what would happen. I think that a lot of people would find it interesting, but I also think that a lot of people who play 6v6 would find it blasphemous. I
Oh,
think
I
that a lot
would.
of people who play 6v6 would feel like the game is dead. I think that a lot of people would assume that Valve doesn't want to take their competitive seriously, and they probably would abandon the game. And I think that it's just because of the stigma attached to Highlander, and I think that it has a lot to do with the fact that um, it's a lot easier to get 6 people to a LAN than it is to get 9 people to a LAN. It's a lot easier to get 6 people in a server than it is to get 9 people into a server. It would be weird, I
Yeah,
think.
it's like sixes is just easier on the logistics.
Yeah, of course, and I think that that's very important. Uh, so I think it would be an odd decision, but I also don't really. I mean, I personally would like to watch a competitive Highlander cast being cast on Twitch, front page of Twitch. Everybody's watching it. Everybody's joking about hats because they're like, where did this competitive TF2 come from? And if it's Highlander at the spotlight, then hey, cool. Then we get to see those sick NG plays. We get to see that Heavy revved up on the point, doing his thing. It's
The
it's
movable
cool to see
sentry
people
gun.
representing their stuff, but I don't know if it'll be logistically successful. So,
Yeah, and
um,
that's how, and because we know that the Highlander 9v9 format will probably be played, because I mean, I think people will get the hint that, oh, 9v9, there's 9 classes, one of every class. I think they'll get that hint a lot easier than sixes, because the sixes meta is like really, like, you wouldn't imagine it unless you already knew about it.
yeah, exactly.
So Highlander undoubtedly will be played more than sixes, and
Oh, for sure.
at least until and unless 6v6, like TF2, becomes an esport, and then people start focusing on that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
How do you think the development team will respond? Do you think they'll be like taken aback, or do you think that they will have known ahead of time based on what they've already seen and just
I don't
continue
think
on?
I don't think that the TF2 team are hermits by any means. I think that they're watching us from afar, but not saying anything. They're the ultimate lurkers in this community. They lurk, they look at what we're saying, they see what's successful, and then they base their next updates off of what they think that we'll like and what they think is best for us. Uh, Not really sure what the thought process was with the phlogistinator there, but they obviously think that they know best sometimes. But for the most part, they add things to the game that they know will be successful because they know what we're saying, they know what we want, and I don't think, like I said, I don't think that they're just back there not saying, they're not looking at what we need. So I think that they won't be surprised if they see that 6v6 is more successful, but they also do know that more people statistically play Highlander, and they know that more people statistically will be like, it'll be easier for more people to understand what Highlander is than it is for people to understand what the meta behind 6v6 is. The meta behind 6v6 is so specific, and the
And it
freedom
has like
behind,
minute changes to it.
oh yeah, the main difference between Valve's 6v6 and Valve's Highlander would be class limits. 9v9 has an easy class limit to understand. It's one of each class, and you can only play that class the entire game. In 6v6, it's going to be, okay, there's 6 players, and everybody can kind of play whatever class they want. Every life, you can choose a different class at random. You can hit random every time you die, and that'll be the game. And I think that that'll confuse a lot of people. I think that the only reason that 6v6 might be more popular eventually, at least Valve 6v6, is that'll be because it'll have shorter queue times and people don't like waiting. I think that people,
Yeah.
you know, I hope, here's something that I haven't really seen a lot of people mention. I really hope that you'll be able to queue up for a matchmaking server outside of the main menu. I think that it would be so much better if they would allow you to queue up for a matchmaking server while you're playing in a public server.
Kind of like
Be-
how it is with TF2 Center or a
exactly.
pug.
Because that'll be just absolutely frustrating that I will have to wait to play TF2 without being able to even play even some TF2.
Yeah.
I want to be able to hop into a pub while waiting for an engineer spot to open up on a Highlander game.
Yeah, because I don't mind waiting 5 to 10 minutes if I can do something. Like if I can
Yeah.
play in a pubs, like I'll be warming up at the same time that and I'll be having something to take my mind off of the wait. But if it's like MVM, I'm going to be mad.
Yeah, when queuing up for MVM, I mean, like most of the time, not a whole lot of play, a lot of whole, whoa, not a whole lot of people play MVM, so a lot of the time it's the queue time isn't that long. But at the same time, it's like when you're waiting for the queue to start for MVM, what are you gonna do? I just go and I look at Twitter, I go on the internet or something. If the queue time for Highlander ends up being 20 minutes, then that'll be, I mean, yeah, no one's going to want to play Highlander. They're going to want to play sixes where the queue time is 5 minutes because there's less people to find. And there's not going to be the specific class that you need to find. So, from a logistics point of view, I think that making it so that you can play in pubs until your matchmaking thing goes through would make the waiting thing less impactful, and I think more people will probably be okay with playing Highlander if that was the case. But I
Right.
don't know if that's going to be the case because from what I've seen from the beta, when Banny streams it, it's exactly like the matchmaking from MVM. So
Yeah.
I hope that they change that. I really do.
And
In fact, I might be sending Eric a letter specifically about that. I don't know if
we'll
he'll
just
read
like
it, but
cut out this audio segment and just send it in.
yeah, exactly.
And
It'd be a lot easier.
one of the things like a lot of people have been complaining about, and I know I've had my complaints about it, but like realize like thinking about it, you understand why it's done this way is why there's like no class limits and no weapon restrictions because the problem with that comes with whitelisting and whitelists change every season. You'd almost have to have like the ESCA and UGC and ETF2L admins have access to the whitelists of the T. You'd almost have to have them have access to matchmaking administration just to update the whitelists because you couldn't bother like I think the TF2 development team is like in total like an 8-man team, so they're already pretty much working round the clock. So like telling them, oh, on top of that, like every 3 months, you gotta change this,
Yeah,
would
yeah.
just be it would be a nightmare for them, and I know personally I would pull the plug. uh, but in the competitive community, there are those who believe Highlander is dying because of the lack of support it's received in the past, and the extended lack of support, with the example of Team Fortress TV dropping it this season.
Mhm.
And Highlander, it seems to be in need of something to help it out. And do you think that you could contribute in some way? And have you tried reaching out to other renowned players of Highlander like Funky, Xtine, Aegis, Sigafu, or Carl Sagan? Because, I mean, like, these are all guys that have pull in the Highlander. These are like some of the biggest players in Highlander who aren't invite players from Sixes. And I mean, I think the most well known of those is like probably Funky, Xtine, and Aegis. But I mean, these are guys that can contribute a lot, and I mean, it's really mind-boggling that there's nothing to replace it. Like Europe has, Blackout, which is like, if I recall correctly, like Highlander only. But then North America, it's kind of like it seems like it's going to Sixes or bust.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, uh I like Highlander, but as far as getting my fingers dirty in the competitive community, it's not something that I'm super interested in because unfortunately, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't really know why, and have a feeling it's just because of the stigma attached to just the fact that I run a YouTube channel, and I think that a lot of competitive players don't watch YouTube, and they don't really enjoy the YouTube community, which is understandable. I mean, it's not exactly the most intelligent community when it comes to the comment section, so I understand why there would be some sort of like resistance to it. But as far as the competitive community goes, my experience has been that a lot of people actually don't really like me. And I have a feeling it's mostly because I think that the rumor's gone around that I support Highlander and that I don't know, I think I trash talk Sixes or something, and they assume that I'm just an idiot NG main who doesn't know what he's talking about, and that while that might very well be true, I think that it's kind of disappointing that a community that I have always loved being a part of as much as I could, and always loved watching, kind of rejects me in a way. And
Yeah, and I
so
think
as far as like supporting Highlander and pairing up with people who also support Highlander goes, I think that those people do a pretty good job of supporting Highlander, and I don't really know how my support would change anything. It wouldn't really change the minds of people who already have their minds made up. The best thing I think that I can do is kind of ease my audience into the concept of Highlander, because I mean it's been very clear actually with the recent releases of my um, I've been playing in gold this season, so I decided that I was going to finally get around to watching my demos and reviewing them, and going over like my thought process and stuff like that, just for people's. For it was I mean, for the most part, it was. It's mostly for me, but I thought, hey, it's a video, might as well put it up there, and it also kind of tests the waters because I want to make sure, I want to see how many people actually already know what Highlander is. And from the first video, I knew, I was like, okay, it's what I thought. Absolutely no one who watches my channel knows what Highlander is or knows what competitive is. And
it's going to be a niche audience.
yeah, I've got pretty much an audience of people who play or who play pubs, and people who are extremely casual at the game, which is understandable because it's a YouTube channel, and a lot of people who play video games watch the YouTube channels associated with the video games that they play. But a lot of my audience doesn't know what Highlander is, doesn't know what competitive is, and to me that's a good thing. It means that I can tell them what it is and maybe inspire some people to become interested in it. And in
Yeah,
fact, even
that's
before I even uploaded those videos, I've had people messaging me saying, "Hey, I play in a competitive. I play in steel. I play in iron. I just started the season. I'm maining engineer, and you really inspired me to play, and that's really awesome." And so I think that my contribution simply is mention it, talk about what it is, and what's fun about it, and that's pretty much all I can do. I think that that's actually the most successful thing that I can do. As far as convincing other people who are already in the competitive community to support Highlander, I don't think that I have really any good right to do that. And I don't think that anyone would take kindly to it because of the stigma already attached to me. And it's unfortunate, but I can't really do anything about it. So,
Right, and I think, I mean, these two things I'm going to say. Like, one, I, as someone who enjoys sixes and Highlander, and I play soldier a lot, but actually in competitive I play medic because I have this uncanny ability to get an Uber on 40 on the mark at 40 seconds every time. But the, with the, do you hope to change? Like, well, not, I don't want to say change as in like you're forcing people to do this, but you know what I'm saying, like try and get more of your audience into competitive. Like you said, you've already had people messaging you telling you they've already started competitive because of you. Do you ever like hope or plan to do more videos that would encourage more people to do that? And
it depends because I've already seen the Musilk effect for TF2 Center, so I don't really want to have that attached to me. But
oh god.
I do want to at least get people interested in it, where to the point where they can kind of make their own decisions. I don't want to make it seem like it's just something that you can do casually, because when it comes to at least the way that competitive is run now, you kind of have to have a schedule. You have to be available at certain times of the day. A lot of people that watch my channel, a lot of people that play TF2, in fact, don't have time to do that, but they still think that they can play competitively because they don't. I basically, if I were to sell competitive to my audience, then I would have to make sure and let them know that it's not something that you can do on the side unless you. It's very much like going out and trying out for a soccer team. Like you got to make a full commitment to it. You got to set aside a time of your day every week to go out for practice, and then you have a match every week. And so you can't really scrimp on that. Like, and I think that maybe that would be a problem for people if they just kind of assumed that, oh, going out for competitive is, oh, you just queue up, right? So selling competitive to my audience is like playing with fire almost. Like I don't want to do it wrong, because then the competitive community would probably not like me even more.
Yeah,
Just
and
like how they
people,
don't really like Musak because of him saying the competitive is TF2 center, which,
oh
I mean,
gosh.
that was not a very good idea on his
Yeah.
part, but I could see what he meant. I know what he meant, but he didn't explain it right, and it was a huge catastrophe, and I basically couldn't play on that website for a while. So
Thanks,
yeah, I just
Muzo.
he's got good intentions. He had good intentions, it just kind of came off wrong because his audience is all casual and they don't understand what things are unless you give it to them in very plain writing. So I have to make sure that I do that. I can learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah, and the the thing about trying to get new people into competitive is that you also, especially when you play higher up, you don't realize the changes that happen lower. It's like I have the team I'm on, Aim to Misbehave, is a steel team. It's our first season. Steel's pretty. It's always been pretty easy. And my
Mm-hmm.
buddy, like, we got like three silver players on our team, and they've hopped down because I mean they're sixes mains, but they played a little bit of Highlander, and they just thought they'd do
Yeah,
it for
yeah.
fun.
Mm-hmm.
And they said like they didn't realize how much harder Steel has gotten because like you've got other teams that are sandbagging with silver
Oh
players,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
you got
Sandbagging is
and you
insane.
got people who've been playing like because they hear matchmaking is coming, so they're getting a head start and playing competitive. And you got like, and there's certain classes you have to practice competitive, like playing competitive is like the only way you're going to get better past a certain point, like Demo Man and really like meta-y classes. Like you're only going to learn how to play in competitive by playing competitive. Like engineers that way to a certain extent. Spy, like you can't play spy in pubs like you play it.
Oh yeah, for
You can't
sure.
play them the same. Medic, you have to play it completely differently. I think my dog's hearing something outside. um but classes like sniper, like sniper especially, like you have these players coming in who've played for like 10,000 hours, never played competitive, but they could be on a Highlander team, like a Highlander Platinum team because of their skill, and they drop people. It's like playing
Oh
against
yeah.
Dunning-Kruger effect or Kids Next Door.
Well,
You
yeah.
you can't peek them.
The difference between, yeah, you're right. It's a very interesting point to bring up that I actually have never really thought about, is that certain classes have a specific skill ceiling to where they can transfer over to competitive a lot easier than others. You're very right about engineer and spy, and for the most part, like maybe scout or something. Well, no, maybe not scout. I don't know. There's certain classes definitely that the the way that you played in pubs is insanely different than the way you played in competitive. Engineer, I feel like, is probably the most different, because with engineer, like if you put a sentry down anywhere in a pub, it'll probably get a kill. At least you put a sentry down anywhere in competitive, and you do a dumb sentry spot in competitive, chances are it's probably not going to last very long because
You're
of
gonna pay
the
for it.
way. Yeah, I mean the way callouts working, and the way that people, they push in with caution, the awareness is way higher. You're way easier. It's way easier to counter an engineer in competitive than it is in pubs. So I feel like if people don't know that, then they're gonna hop into competitive and just play how they've always played, and then they're gonna get punished for it, depending on the class. But as far as sniper goes, it's extremely straightforward. The most straightforward class in the game is sniper. You stand somewhere really far back and you shoot people in the head. You don't do you do that exactly the same way in pubs than you do in competitive. You stand somewhere far back and you shoot people in the head. That's
Right,
pretty much all
and
you do.
I'm gonna
So,
preface it with like we're not shitting on snipers,
oh no,
sniper
no,
mains,
no.
like, but that's just the reality of the class.
Sniper is, I mean, it takes, I mean, I'm saying shoot people in the head like it's the easiest thing in the world. I am a terrible sniper. I only body shot people. I, 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 I have an extreme amount of respect for people who are able to land headshots consistently. The thing is, you land headshots in a pub, you're gonna win. You land headshots in a competitive game, you're gonna win. With engineer, if you place a sentry in a dumb spot in a pub, it'll kill everybody. You place a sentry in a dumb spot in a competitive game, it'll kill one person, and then everyone will know where it is and take it out. So it's just complete. It's different, mindsets across different classes, and I think that that's interesting. And I think that that's something that newer players need to know, especially in Highlander. If they're maining a certain class, they need to know, okay, I have to have a different mindset for the way I'm playing right now.
Right, and with sniper, it's almost like, and this is back on way back from the last part we were talking about, how pubs kind of has like this underlying difficulty of the unexpected. It's almost harder to practice sniper in a pubs because of the unexpected, like the things that you don't expect to happen. Because I mean, if you can react to
Yeah,
that and successfully, like reacting to something that for the most part is going to be the same every time is like a walk in the park.
Yeah, well, in pubs you can just randomly get killed by a backburner pyro who came out of nowhere, or five spies can flank you at
Yeah,
once.
you swear
But
they spawned behind you.
yeah, but I mean, it's like you can't really. I mean, it's unexpected, but at the same time, it is expected. It's like, okay, I totally expect to die in a dumb way, but yeah, in competitive, you're gonna get focused a lot more as a sniper because you're a key pick in a lot of situations, and so you kind of have to have that. There's still the crossover of paranoia almost as a sniper. You need,
Yeah,
if you're not running Razorback, you need to basically expect that you're gonna get stabbed. If you're not running Girardi, or I mean, if you're running Girardi, then you need to have in mind that, like, okay, if there's a big clump of people, then I need to throw it. So I mean, that doesn't change from pub to competitive, and
yeah.
snipe the sniper first in competitive.
And
You
speaking
probably
of
should do the same thing in a pub.
the Razorback, we're gonna do this, and I'm gonna jump back real quick onto the topic about the whole you feeling like that the recent thing of you being kind of ostracized, especially by the Sixes community. But we're not like the right now. I've seen it and I think the post has kind of died off, but it was a hot topic for a while on the UGC forums. Maybe you saw it, where a lot of spy mains are calling out and crying out for the Razorback to be banned because
Yeah,
it
yeah.
basically it means
I didn't
they're
read it on the forums, but yeah, I
yeah,
know
I
about the.
read through it, and even like Stabby was commenting on it, and Corsa was commenting on it. You know, some of the big names. And they were talking about why it needs to be banned. And Corsa defending the Razorback and everything because he's a
Oh, okay.
sniper and Highlander,
Oh yeah, yeah. I would
and
assume so.
Stabby was a big proponent of it being banned.
I
But
remember actually watching a stream with Max, the platinum sniper, and somebody asked him in chat, "What would you do if the Razorback got removed from the game?" And he said that he would quit TF2.
oh yeah, and Max was the someone Stabby brought up because he said like Max would play and he'd be playing in a match like blasting music, just listening to music, not even paying attention, just sniping.
Oh yeah, of
But
course.
it's like a double-edged sword because if you ban the Razorback, because the Razorback's a counter to spy, you have to start banning weapons that are counters. Because like originally when TF2 came out, before there were unlocks and everything, each class had a hard counter that was in the form of another class. But then they started coming out with things like the Spy Sickle, the Razorback, the Huelong Heater, um, the to counter this and soften the blow of things, like even as mundane as the gunboats allowing the soldier insane mobility. Um, but the problem I see with a lot of things, like people calling out for the Razorback to be banned, is that if you ban the Razorback, first off, you got to unban the Machina because there's no excuse for that charged body shot. Um, you have to start banning, like, when's the cutoff for banning other counter, like, weapons that are meant to help you counter your counter class? And so I just want your opinion on that.
Well, I am neither a spy main nor a sniper main, so I feel like my opinion on this is
Right.
doesn't have a lot of weight to it. But I do see that sniper is basically the anchor for a lot of teams, and it's because there's no reliable way to counter a sniper besides another sniper, and I think that that's not a very good thing in a competitive game. So I have to be careful with this, but I do think that the Razorback should be banned. And I think it's because of the way that the meta works right now. I think that they need to figure out a different way to punish snipers who are doing well. And well, I want to rephrase that. I don't think we should punish snipers who are doing well. I think that we should punish snipers who are using an overpowered combo that counters pretty much every other class. There should be a way to take out a sniper reliably without having your sniper be able to outsnipe him. I think that even and the thing is, like, the way that most snipers play nowadays is they equip the Razorback and they play right next to their medic, and their medic heals them to 185, and they just sit there and they can't be killed because one, a spy can't stab them, and people are saying, "Oh, just shoot him with the ambassador." But if you're playing with a combo, the spy can't shoot a sniper because then he'll get caught out and he'll die before the sniper dies. And what will be the point? The sniper will be distracted for 5 seconds and that's it. And then if a
5 seconds
sniper's
is a lot of
overhealed,
time.
well, I mean, I just said 5 seconds off the whatever. You can distract a sniper, but it has to be a coordinated play. You distract the sniper and then the other sniper can snipe him, or the soldier can jump in and kill him. That's kind of ridiculous. That's not, it's not a healthy environment in my opinion. I think
Right.
that the spy should be able to do one of two things. I think that he should, if the sniper is playing with the combo, he should be able to say, okay, what's a bigger pick right now, the sniper or the medic? And then he'll pick one, and then he'll stab one. He'll die as a result of it because everybody will see him, and he'll move on. I think that right now it's kind of not a positive competitive environment that the spy looks at the combo, which is currently consisting of the medic, the sniper, and then the rest of the combo, whatever's alive right now, and then saying, okay, who am I going to pick? Well, obviously not the sniper because I can't physically kill him right now. So I have to go for something else. Even though the sniper might be the better pick right now, I physically can't do it. And our sniper can't physically do it because he's not as good of a counter sniper as he is. And every other class can't kill him because he's playing with the combo. He's extremely protected. So basically the sniper's invincible right now. That is not a positive environment for competitive, in my opinion. I think that it would be much easier to just ban it for now, but I think that ultimately it would be better if Valve would just change it. So
Right, and I think that's part of the beauty of TF2 because like I mean, you're an engineer, you don't like especially in competitive, you don't have much interaction with the enemy sniper. I mean, most of the time you're completely out of
I
the
get
line
killed by him.
Yeah, you get killed by him, but there's
Picking a sniper is very hard to do unless you're playing flank engineer and the sniper's just simply not
yeah.
playing with their combo, which if the sniper's not playing with their combo, then it's a lot easier for him to get killed. But the reality of the situation is most snipers, or at least most smart snipers, play with their combo because it makes them invincible.
Yeah, and on my end of the spectrum, I play soldier and medic competitively. I'm actually a proponent for keeping the Razorback
Oh yeah, yeah.
because, like I said before, you have to start when's the cutoff for banning other weapons that help
Oh,
counter
for
other
sure.
classes. And on top of that, it's like you turn like banning something like that is like you turn the sniper like you either stick the pyro to the hip of the sniper and don't have him move or you turn the sniper into a class that hunts the spy almost as much as anything else because they're constantly looking around for the spy to make sure they don't get killed. And I've always also said that the Razorback's more of a side grade in my opinion because you have a SMG where on average does like 11 damage. And if you land like you could kill every class but a heavy and overhealed soldier with that with the SMG and
Oh
then the
yeah, yeah.
Girardi with the mini crits.
Yeah, yeah.
But moving on from that, going back to the the you being ostracized. I can kind of understand. Like I'm on both sides of the. I'm play Highlander and Sixes, so I understand where both sides are coming from. The only reason I could see the Sixes players feeling like it's a personal attack on them from you is because of the statement and maybe this is where like if you want to clarify or if you felt like you were right or whatever I don't know what goes on inside the mind of the Dane the brain but when you said that the Sixes players feel threatened and they're defending their game mode by essentially trashing other game modes
Yeah,
um
yeah.
I felt like a little was like um what? I was like, okay, I get what he's saying because how volatile Sixes players are towards other game modes, especially Highlander. But at the same time, it's like you making it sound like the Sixes players like have size problems that they're trying to overcompensate for.
Well, I mean, more people play Highlander than Sixes, but that's beside the point. That's not the point that I was making when I said that. When I said that I was um, more or less being facetious, I was kind of like throwing out the most likely answer to my question, which was why are six players so opposed to Highlander? And I honestly don't know the answer to that question. So I threw out the idea of, hey, maybe they're just being defensive because they feel like Highlander in the end is probably going to be more successful for more people because more people play all 9 classes than more people play uh, just 4 of them. So I threw that out there as kind of like a, hey, maybe that's what it is kind of idea. I don't really believe that that's what it is because obviously, if you're a Sixes player, you already know that Sixes is the more competitive format. So uh, I don't know why you would automatically say that you would get. I don't know why you would get defensive. That was
Yeah.
just kind of like me saying like, is this what it is? I don't know. maybe that's what it is, because I really don't know what it is. Like, why do Sixes players hate Highlander so much? If you don't like it, don't play it. You don't have to trash talk it. The more trash talking you do about our format, the more Valve is going to assume that people don't like it. But when it comes down to it, I made that video kind of out of like frustration that that Highlander might possibly be getting the shaft because of the way that the Sixes community looks at Highlander. But as time has progressed on, I've realized that Valve does lurk. They do know that they look at the stats. They say, "Oh, okay, a lot more people play Highlander than Sixes." So there's no reason for us not to include it. So my fear of them not including it is kind of dissipated in that way since that video, because when they first announced matchmaking, I was like, "Oh shit, what about Highlander?" Like, because right now, Valve's gonna look at Sixes and say, "Oh, that's the one that everyone likes," because every time we talk to a player, they say Sixes is the competitive format. Highlander sucks. It's a pub with comms. Screw Highlander, because that's what most people who play Sixes, well, not most people, but that's what most vocal people who play Sixes say. And they say, lol Highlander, So I assumed that Valve would take that to heart and add to the game only. So if that was an explanation for why I said that, then I hope that was sufficient. But
you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, there you go. But
boy, and finally moving on to the next point. It's way back, like probably like 20 minutes ago, we initially started talking about this. With the competitive community, it seems that the Highlander community has more popular members than the Sixes on the internet, than the 6v6 community, who they only really have like Banny and Mr. Slyn and Sideshow, really. Aside from like some of like the smaller time players on Twitch, like a Showstopper and Truck to a certain extent, but who speak and represent their community as a whole. With the prominent TF2 players who play Highlander, like the ones I listed above, and I forgot to mention Salty Fish when he plays, because isn't he like a gold
hey,
spy?
sorry, I'm gonna have to interrupt you for a second, but I think somebody's at my door right now. I don't really want to miss your question, so
Oh
if we
no.
if we could just like take a quick like break for a second, just so I could see who's at the door real
Well,
quick.
yeah, I think I'm gonna cut this part right here.
Yeah.
Part 3, because this is at 52 minutes.
Oh, okay. Hold on one second. I'll be right back, and we can finish up.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to conclude part 2. The neighbor coming over to Dane's house. Plus, this is at 52 minutes, so we're gonna cut it here and come back with part 3. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in part 3.